My name is Antonio, and what I'm about to share serves as a warning for those of you who are married and thinking about venturing with other people. Everything I went through with witchcraft is a valuable lesson that I'd like to share with you, as I wouldn't wish what I experienced on anyone. But before continuing with the story, please like, subscribe to the channel, comment on this account, and tell me which city you're from. I was 22 years old when I married Karina. She was a year younger, at 21. We were young, full of dreams, and ready to face the world together. I remember our wedding day as if it were yesterday. Karina was radiant in her white dress, and I could hardly believe my luck. In the early years, it wasn't easy. We lived in a small rented apartment, and we both worked hard to build our life. I was starting out in motorcycle mechanics, doing odd jobs here and there, while Karina worked as a clerk in a clothing store. Sometimes we'd arrive home exhausted, but we always had energy to talk about our day. One of the things I loved most about Karina was her ability to listen to me. No matter how trivial the subject, she always paid attention. When I talked about my dream of having my own shop, her eyes would shine with enthusiasm. She believed in me more than I believed in myself. We decided not to have children right away. We wanted to establish ourselves first, to have a solid foundation. Some of our friends thought it was strange, but for us, it made sense. Our love was enough. We filled each other in a way that we didn't need anything more. Over time, our communication only improved. We created a habit of sharing one good thing and one bad thing about our day every night before sleeping. Sometimes, Karina would cry, talking about a difficult customer. Other times, I would vent about my frustration with a motorcycle I couldn't fix. But we were always there for each other, listening, consoling, advising. Our weekends were simple but special. We would have picnics in the city park, watch movies embraced on the couch, or simply stay in bed late, talking about everything and nothing at the same time. It was in these moments that we reaffirmed our dreams and planned our future. As the years passed, I watched Karina flourish. She began to take an interest in manicure, taking courses on weekends. I supported her in everything, just as she supported me. We saw in each other not just a partner, but a best friend. Of course, we had our ups and downs. There were arguments, moments of doubt, nights sleeping with our backs to each other. But we always found our way back to each other. Our rule was never to go to sleep angry, and we strived to fulfill it. With the passing years, I saw our love mature like a fine wine. It was no longer that overwhelming passion of the beginning, but something deeper, more solid. We knew each other's every expression, every tone of voice. We could have entire conversations just with looks. As we approached our 30s, I felt we had built a solid foundation. Not just financially, but emotionally. We had faced losses, celebrated victories, and grown together through it all. Karina was my rock, my safe harbor. The years passed quickly, and before I knew it, I was 37 years old. Karina, my life companion, had turned 36. Looking back, it was hard to believe how much we had accomplished since our wedding. My dream of having my own shop finally became a reality. I started small, renting a modest space in the city center. In the beginning, it was just me, a toolbox, and a lot of determination. I remember the nights I stayed awake, worried about whether I could pay the next month's bills. Karina was always there, encouraging me, saying everything would work out. Over time, the shop grew. I gained a reputation for honest and skillful work with motorcycles. Customers started coming more frequently, and soon I needed to hire helpers. Seeing my business prosper was gratifying, but the best part was sharing each small victory with Karina. Karina also found her professional path. What started as a hobby transformed into a prosperous career as a home visit manicurist. In the beginning, she only served a few friends on weekends, but her dedication and talent soon spread throughout the city. Even after so many years together, we still found ways to surprise each other. Karina would sometimes show up at the shop with a special lunch she had prepared. I, in turn, occasionally surprised her with small gifts or planned romantic dinners at home. Our decision not to have children was sometimes questioned by friends and family, but for us, it made sense. We were happy with our life together, focused on our careers and on each other. We had nephews and nieces whom we loved to spoil, and that was enough for us. With the success of our businesses, we were able to realize some dreams. We bought our own house, a cozy place with a small garden that Karina loved to care for. We also started traveling more, visiting places we had previously only seen in photos. Then, on a Saturday like any other, the shop clock marked noon, and I was preparing to close. My employees had already left, eager to enjoy the weekend. I was alone, doing a final check on the tools before heading home. It was then that I heard the sound of a motorcycle approaching. I looked at the entrance and saw a young woman parking a red motorcycle. She took off her helmet, revealing long dark hair. When she turned to me, I noticed she was incredibly beautiful. "Sorry, we're already closing," I said, trying not to sound rude. She smiled, a smile that seemed to light up the whole place. "Please, it's just a small problem. My bike is making a strange noise. It won't take long, I promise." I hesitated for a moment. Karina was waiting for me at home. We had plans to have lunch together, but something in the young woman's expression made me give in. "All right, let's take a quick look." She introduced herself as Lucy while I examined the motorcycle. The problem was simple, just a loose screw. While I worked, Lucy stayed nearby, asking questions about the shop and about me. "You're the owner, aren't you?" she asked, her curious eyes observing me. I nodded, feeling a twinge of pride. "Yes, I opened this place a few years ago." Lucy smiled again. "It must be great to have your own business. Are you married?" The question caught me by surprise. "Yes, for 15 years, I replied, showing my wedding ring. "How lucky your wife is," Lucy commented, her tone soft, "to have a husband so skilled and dedicated." I felt my face heat up with the compliment. I tried to change the subject, focusing on the bike. "There, it's all adjusted now. It shouldn't give you any more problems." Lucy thanked me effusively, lightly touching my arm. "Thank you so much for helping me, even though you were closed. You saved my day." As she prepared to leave, I noticed that Lucy took a little longer than necessary to say goodbye. Her eyes met mine several times, and her smile seemed to contain something more than simple gratitude. After she left, I stood for a few minutes, a strange feeling in my chest. Lucy was beautiful, yes, but it wasn't just that. There was something about her, in her way of speaking and looking, that intrigued me. I shook my head, trying to push away these thoughts. I locked the shop and went home, determined to forget the encounter. But that night, lying next to Karina, I couldn't get Lucy out of my head. Her image appeared in flashes. The smile, the soft touch on my arm, the look that seemed to see through me. I felt guilty for these thoughts, turning in bed, restless. Karina noticed my agitation. "Is everything okay, love?" she asked, drowsy. "Yes, just tired from work," I lied, feeling a pang of remorse. In the days that followed, I tried to focus on work and on Karina, but Lucy kept appearing in my thoughts. I caught myself looking at the entrance of the shop, half expecting to see her again. And then it happened. I was with Karina in the supermarket when I saw Lucy in the next aisle. She saw me and smiled, waving discreetly. I felt my heart quicken. Karina didn't notice anything, busy choosing fruits. Another time, I was in a restaurant with some friends when I saw Lucy come in. Our eyes met, and she gave a small smile before sitting at a distant table. Throughout the meal, I felt her presence, as if an invisible force was pulling me in her direction. These coincidences began to become more frequent. Lucy appeared in the most unexpected places, in the bank line, in the city square, even near my house once. Each encounter, however brief, left me agitated and confused. I knew I should tell Karina about these encounters, about how I felt, but something stopped me. Maybe it was fear of hurting her, or shame of my own feelings, or perhaps, deep down, I enjoyed this feeling of excitement and novelty that Lucy brought to my routine life. One day, I was at the notary office resolving some issues for the shop when I saw Lucy in the waiting room. She didn't see me. I stood still, observing her from afar. Her profile, the way she absently played with her hair, everything about her fascinated me. I felt like a teenager again, with my heart racing and palms sweating. I left the notary without resolving my business, afraid that she would see me. On the way back to the shop, I felt torn between guilt and excitement. I loved Karina. Of that I had no doubt. Our marriage was solid, based on years of companionship and mutual trust. But Lucy represented something different, a temptation I had never experienced before. The days following my encounter with Lucy at the notary were filled with conflicting emotions. Each morning, I would wake up determined to focus on my work and on Karina, but invariably my thoughts returned to Lucy. At the shop, I caught myself distracted, sometimes making silly mistakes I would never make before. My employees noticed the change but attributed it to work stress. If they only knew the truth. One afternoon, while working on a motorcycle, I heard the familiar sound of an engine approaching. My heart leaped when I saw Lucy entering the shop. She smiled, that smile that seemed reserved just for me. "Hi, Antonio," she said, her voice soft. "My bike is making that noise again. Could you take a look?" I nodded, trying to maintain my composure. While examining the bike, Lucy stayed nearby, chatting with me. I noticed how my employees looked at her, clearly impressed by the beauty. "The boss is lucky, huh?" I heard one of them mutter to another. "That hottie is into him." I pretended not to hear, but the words echoed in my mind. Was it that obvious? Lucy stayed at the shop longer than necessary, always finding a new topic to discuss with me. When she finally left, one of my employees, João, approached with a mischievous smile. "Boss, she's totally into you, huh? Be careful so Mrs. Karina doesn't find out." I gave a forced laugh, trying to hide my discomfort. "Don't be silly, João. She's just a customer." But João's words stayed with me. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing in bed, thinking about Lucy, about Karina, about my life that until then had seemed so stable and was now being shaken by these new feelings. The encounters with Lucy became more frequent. She appeared at the shop regularly, always with some excuse related to her motorcycle. Each time I saw her, I felt a mixture of excitement and guilt. The days dragged on. At the shop, I caught myself constantly looking at the entrance, half expecting to see Lucy appear. At home, I tried to act normally with Karina, but I felt that something had changed. Our moments together, once so natural and comfortable, now seemed forced, at least on my part. Karina began to notice my distraction. "Is everything okay, Antonio?" she would ask frequently. "You seem distant lately." I always gave the same answer. "Just tired from work, dear. Don't worry." But each lie made me feel worse. One afternoon, I was closing the shop when Lucy appeared. My heart raced at the sight of her. "Antonio," she said, her voice soft, "we need to talk." I hesitated for a moment but ended up agreeing. We went to a nearby cafe, a discreet place where no one knew us. Lucy got straight to the point. "I know you're married, Antonio. I know this is complicated, but I can't deny what I feel for you, and I think you feel the same for me." I remained silent, unable to deny but also unable to admit. Lucy continued, "I'm not asking you to leave your wife. I just want a chance. A chance for us to be together, even if it's for a short time. No commitments, no promises, just the two of us." Her words echoed in my mind. Part of me wanted to refuse immediately, to be faithful to Karina and everything we had built together. But another part, a part I didn't know existed, desperately yearned to accept Lucy's proposal. I need to think," was all I could say. Lucy smiled, understanding. "Of course. Think carefully. But don't take too long, Antonio. Life is too short to waste opportunities." And then she continued, "Next Saturday at 1 p.m., go to the Central Hotel, room 305. If you show up, I'll know your answer." She stood up, gave me a soft kiss on the cheek and left, leaving me alone with my tumultuous thoughts. The days following my conversation with Lucy at the cafe were absolute torment. Every waking moment was an internal battle between what I knew was right and what my body and mind desperately desired. If I went to meet Lucy, nothing would ever be the same. So, on Saturday, as soon as I closed the shop at noon, I left without direction, not knowing if I would go home or to meet Lucy. In the car, my mind screamed not to make this mistake, but my body seemed to have a will of its own, guiding me toward the Central Hotel. I stopped in front of the hotel, hands trembling on the steering wheel. I sat there for long minutes, debating internally. Finally, I gathered courage and entered. The elevator to the third floor seemed to take an eternity. Each step toward room 305 echoed in my ears. I stopped in front of the door, my heart almost jumping out of my mouth. I knocked lightly. The door opened, revealing Lucy. She was stunning, wearing a dress that left little to the imagination. "You came," she whispered, pulling me inside. What happened next was an explosion of sensations. Lucy kissed me with a passion I hadn't experienced in years. My mind emptied of all rational thought, leaving only pure, primitive desire. Our clothes fell to the floor as we stumbled toward the bed. Lucy's touch, her perfume, everything was intoxicating. We made love with an intensity that left me dazed. Afterward, lying side by side, reality began to seep back into my consciousness. The weight of what I had done fell on me like an avalanche. This was a mistake, I muttered, more to myself than to Lucy. She turned to me, her eyes shining in the dimness of the room. "Don't say that, Antonio. It was wonderful. You know it was." I got up abruptly, starting to get dressed. "I need to go. This can't happen again." Lucy sat up in bed, the sheet covering her body. "Antonio, please, don't run from this, from what we feel." I paused at the door, looking at her. For a moment, I almost gave in to the temptation to return to bed, to lose myself again in that overwhelming passion. But the image of Karina waiting for me at home hit me like a punch in the stomach. "Goodbye, Lucy," I said, quickly leaving the room. In the car, on the way home, tears began to fall. What had I done? How could I betray Karina like this? Guilt consumed me, mixed with the memory of the pleasure I had experienced with Lucy. I arrived home, finding Karina asleep on the couch. She woke up with the sound of the door. "Antonio, is everything okay? You were gone so long." I forced a smile, feeling like the worst of men. "Sorry, dear. The work, it was more complicated than I thought." She nodded, sleepy, and we went to bed. Lying beside her, I couldn't sleep. Guilt was eating me alive, but at the same time, I couldn't stop thinking about Lucy, about how it had been to be with her. In the days that followed, I lived in a state of constant anxiety. Every time my phone rang, I feared it was Lucy. At the shop, I caught myself looking at the door, half expecting, half fearing she would appear. At night, lying next to Karina, I was tormented by nightmares where she discovered my betrayal. I would wake up sweating, feeling suffocated by guilt and fear. A week after the meeting at the hotel, I received another message from Lucy. "We need to talk. I can't forget what happened, and I know you can't either." I stared at the message, my heart divided. The days following Lucy's message were a real hell. At the shop, I tried to concentrate on work, but my mind was elsewhere. My employees noticed my distraction, but no one dared to comment. I knew I needed to keep up appearances, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. One afternoon, while finishing adjusting a motorcycle, I received another message from Lucy. "We need to talk. Meet me at the same hotel tonight." My heart raced. I knew I should ignore it, delete the message, and move on with my life. But the temptation was too strong. That night, I lied to Karina, saying I needed to solve a problem at the shop. She looked at me with concern but didn't question. "All right, love. Don't overwork yourself, okay?" she said, giving me a kiss on the cheek. I drove to the hotel with my hands trembling on the steering wheel. Each kilometer increased my anxiety. When I arrived at the room, Lucy was already there, waiting for me. She seemed nervous, which only increased my apprehension. "Antonio, we need to talk about what happened," she began, her voice soft but firm. "I can't stop thinking about you. I know you feel the same." I sat on the edge of the bed, running my hands through my hair. "Lucy, I don't know what to do. I love my wife, but you awakened something in me that I didn't know existed." Lucy approached, kneeling in front of me and holding my hands. "I'm not asking you to leave Karina. I just want us to be honest with each other. We can continue with this, but we need to be careful." Lucy squeezed my hands, her eyes fixed on mine. "She won't find out, Antonio. I promise to be discreet. I just can't keep pretending I don't feel anything for you." Those words were my downfall. Before I could think better, I leaned in and kissed her. It was a kiss full of desperation and desire, a dangerous mixture that sealed our fate. In the following days, our relationship became a dangerous dance. I met Lucy whenever I could, inventing excuses for Karina and my employees. Each encounter was a mixture of pleasure and guilt, an emotional roller coaster that left me exhausted. Karina seemed oblivious to everything. She continued to be the loving and dedicated wife she had always been, not suspecting anything. This only increased my torment. Sometimes, during our moments together, I caught myself observing her, trying to find some sign of suspicion. But she trusted me blindly, and this trust was an unbearable weight. The affair with Lucy continued, growing more intense and dangerous. I knew I was playing with fire, but I couldn't stop. Each encounter was a mixture of pleasure and guilt. Karina, on the other hand, seemed to be in a world apart. She continued with her daily routine, not suspecting anything, but I noticed a subtle change in her. Karina was more tired, more fragile. Her eyes, once so bright, now seemed dull and lifeless. One night, while we were having dinner, Karina dropped her fork and brought her hand to her head, as if she was feeling intense pain. "Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to hide my concern. She forced a smile. "Just a headache, must be fatigue." But I knew it was more than that. Karina was withering before my eyes, and I felt powerless to help her. Each day that passed, she seemed weaker, more distant, and the guilt consumed me, knowing that I was responsible for her suffering. The days dragged on, and Karina's situation only worsened. She began to lose weight rapidly, and her skin was pale and lifeless. Her clients noticed the change, and she began to lose work. Each time I saw her, my heart broke a little more. One afternoon, while I was at the shop, I received a call from Karina. Her voice was weak and trembling. "Antonio, I'm not feeling well. I think I need to go to the doctor." I dropped everything and rushed home. I found Karina lying on the couch, her breathing labored. "Come on, I'll take you to the hospital," I said, helping her to get up. At the hospital, the doctors examined her and ran several tests. After a few hours of agonizing waiting, a doctor approached. "Your wife is very debilitated. We need to do more tests to understand what's happening." I looked at Karina, lying in the hospital bed, and felt a wave of despair. How could I have let this happen? How could I have been so blind, so selfish? The following days were a nightmare. Karina was hospitalized, and the doctors continued to run tests to discover the cause of her illness. I spent as much time as possible by her side, holding her hand and trying to be strong. But inside, I was falling apart. One night, while I was sitting beside Karina in the hospital, she opened her eyes and looked at me. Her eyes were full of pain and sadness. "Antonio, what's happening? I feel like I'm losing you." My throat tightened and tears began to stream down my face. "I'm here, Karina. I will always be here." She squeezed my hand, her strength almost non-existent. "I love you, Antonio. No matter what happens, I will always love you." Those words were like a knife in my heart. I knew I was betraying Karina's trust, and it was destroying me inside. But I also knew I couldn't continue living this lie. One day, amidst all the confusion, I went to Lucy's house, something I did very rarely. When I arrived, I met a woman who introduced herself as Barbara. I asked for Lucy, and she started laughing. Actually, she guffawed and told me that Lucy was attending to a good client. I said, "What do you mean by a good client?" Barbara continued laughing. And then I noticed she was holding a glass, drinking something. At that moment, I entered the house, and she followed me, saying I couldn't come in. And then I demanded explanations about what she was talking about. Barbara said she would only talk if I gave her money via Pix, so I offered 100 reais, but she laughed and didn't accept. Then I offered 200 reais, and again she didn't accept, saying she would only open her mouth for 300. So I said I was leaving and turned my back to go, but Barbara told me to wait and accepted the 200 reais. Then Barbara made a revelation that made my stomach turn. Lucy is an escort, and I'm one too. If you give me another 100, I'll do whatever you want. I just told her to continue. She casts love spells to make men stay with her and give her money. She likes luxury. Then I remembered several times when Lucy found ways to get money from me. I need to put gas in my bike, but my account is blocked. My gas ran out and I can't get my card to work, not to mention all the expensive meals and expensive places we went where I always paid. Well, in short, what Barbara was saying made sense. She continued. Lucy sometimes also does black magic spells on the wives of men she gets involved with, so they become sick and weak, giving her more advantage. I was horrified and asked why she was telling me all this, and Barbara said that for 200 reais she would even rat out her own mother. Then she begged me to leave and not tell Lucy that she was the one who told me everything. I promised not to mention her. I decided I needed to confront Lucy and get answers directly from her. I arranged to meet at a discreet cafe in the city. My heart was heavy, and I knew this conversation could change everything. When Lucy arrived, she seemed nervous, but tried to hide it with a smile. "What's wrong, Antonio? You look worried." I got straight to the point, without beating around the bush. "Lucy, I need to know the truth. Are you an escort? And did you use witchcraft to bewitch me and make Karina sick?" Lucy's eyes widened, and for a moment I saw a flash of guilt in her gaze, but she quickly regained her composure. "Antonio, that's absurd. I would never do such a thing. I truly love you. Who told you these lies?" I wanted to believe her, desperately wanted all of this to be a misunderstanding, but something inside told me there was more to this story. "Lucy, I want to believe you, but all of this is destroying me. I can't ignore what's happening to Karina." Lucy tried to hold my hand, but I pulled away. "Antonio, please, I didn't do any of this. You have to believe me." I shook my head, feeling a mixture of anger and despair. "I need proof, Lucy, and if you're lying, I'll find out." I left the cafe, my mind spinning with questions and doubts. I decided I needed help, someone who could give me definitive answers. I remembered Madame Rosa, a well-known witch in the city for her skills and wisdom. I drove to her house, my heart beating rapidly. Madame Rosa received me at her home. There were other people waiting for consultations, and I had to join a waiting list that took a little over an hour. And then, when it was my turn, I sat in her room, feeling a mixture of fear and hope. I told her everything that was happening and my suspicion about Lucy. "I need to know the truth, Madame Rosa. Karina is very ill and I don't know what to do." She nodded, her eyes closed in concentration. "I'll need a personal object from Lucy, something she has touched recently." I went back to the shop and took a handkerchief that Lucy had left during one of our secret meetings. I gave the handkerchief to Madame Rosa, who held it for a moment before beginning to murmur words in an unknown language. After a few minutes, she opened her eyes and looked at me with sadness. Antonio, you were a victim of a love-binding spell. Lucy used witchcraft to bewitch you and make Karina sick. The consequences of the spell extended to your wife, who is very ill. My heart raced, and tears began to stream down my face. How can I undo this? How can I save Karina? Madame Rosa placed her hand on my shoulder, her voice full of compassion. I can break the spell, but you need to be prepared to face the consequences. This won't be easy, but it's necessary to save Karina. I nodded, feeling a wave of determination wash over me. I'll do whatever it takes, Madame Rosa. I just want to save my wife. She began to perform a ritual, murmuring ancient words and making complex gestures with her hands. I watched, my heart beating rapidly, hoping this could save Karina. After what seemed like an eternity, Madame Rosa stopped and looked at me. The spell has been broken. Karina will begin to recover soon, but you need to stay away from Lucy. She is dangerous. I nodded, feeling a wave of relief mixed with fear. Thank you, Madame Rosa. I'll do whatever it takes. She observed me for a moment, her eyes full of wisdom. Antonio, you have suffered greatly because of Lucy. Would you like me to cast a spell to get revenge on her? The proposal caught me by surprise. I was outraged by Karina's situation, and the anger I felt toward Lucy was intense. The idea of revenge seemed tempting, a way to bring justice for the suffering she had caused. I thought for a moment, my mind spinning with conflicting emotions. Finally, I nodded, feeling the anger boiling inside me. Yes, Madame Rosa. I want Lucy to feel the pain she caused. I accept doing the revenge spell. Madame Rosa began to prepare the ingredients for the spell, murmuring prayers as she worked. I watched, feeling a mixture of excitement and fear. I knew I was entering dangerous territory, but the anger I felt toward Lucy was overwhelming. After some time, Madame Rosa stopped and looked at me. The spell is ready, Antonio. Lucy will feel the consequences of her actions. I nodded, feeling a wave of dark satisfaction. Thank you, Madame Rosa. I hope this brings some justice for what she did. I left Madame Rosa's house with a feeling of relief mixed with a growing darkness. Then I managed to distance myself from Lucy. Time passed, and gradually, Karina began to show signs of recovery. Each day that passed, her health visibly improved. Her color returned, and she began to regain the weight she had lost. Seeing her strength and determination filled me with hope and relief. Finally, it seemed we were emerging from that storm. Karina, with her unwavering resilience, didn't take long to resume her daily activities. Soon, she was back at work, attending to her clients with the same care and dedication as always. Her passion for what she did had never diminished, and even after all the suffering, she threw herself body and soul into her profession. Seeing Karina flourish again was one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. She was my rock, my safe harbor, and I knew that together we could face any challenge. Each day, I strived to be a better man, worthy of her love and trust. One day, more than a year after the incident, I was driving through the city toward the shop when something caught my attention at one of the traffic lights. A familiar figure, but drastically changed, was standing at the corner, asking for money from passing motorists. My heart raced as I recognized Lucy. She was unrecognizable. Her clothes were dirty and torn, and her body, once full of vitality, now seemed incredibly thin and debilitated. Her face, which once radiated confidence and charm, was now marked by sadness and despair. With each movement, one could see the fragility of her condition. Upon arriving at the shop, I found myself reflecting on everything that had happened. The image of Lucy, debilitated and begging for money on the streets, wouldn't leave my mind. Although she had caused so much suffering to me and Karina, seeing her in that state made me question whether revenge had really brought any justice. I felt a mixture of compassion and regret, and I couldn't ignore the feeling that I had gone too far. After reflecting on everything that had happened, I decided I needed to correct one more mistake. I didn't want to see Lucy suffering so much. I knew that revenge wouldn't bring peace to anyone, neither to her nor to me. With a heavy heart, I made an important decision: to ask Madame Rosa to undo the revenge spell. I drove to Madame Rosa's house with a sense of urgency. "Antonio, what brings you back?" I sat before her, feeling a mixture of determination and regret. "Madame Rosa, I need you to undo the revenge spell against Lucy. I can't bear to see her suffering so much. I know she was wrong, but revenge didn't bring peace, just more pain." Madame Rosa observed me for a moment, her eyes full of wisdom. "Antonio, you have a good heart. Not everyone would have the courage to do this. Undoing the revenge spell won't be easy, but it's possible." I nodded, feeling a wave of relief. "I'm willing to do whatever is necessary. I just want Lucy to have a chance to rebuild her life." Madame Rosa began preparing the ingredients to undo the spell, murmuring as she worked. I watched, feeling a mixture of hope and anxiety. I knew I was doing the right thing, but I still feared what the future might bring. After what seemed like an eternity, Madame Rosa stopped and looked at me. "The revenge spell has been undone, Antonio. Lucy will begin to recover soon. You did the right thing." I felt a wave of gratitude and peace. "Thank you, Madame Rosa. I don't know how to thank you." She smiled softly. "True gratitude is in your actions, Antonio. Continue to be a man of good heart, and life will reward you." In the days that followed, I continued to focus on my relationship with Karina. Our life was returning to normal, and each day was an opportunity to show my love and commitment. Karina, with her strength and resilience, was flourishing again, and our connection seemed stronger than ever. And so it was. Time passed, and life began to follow its normal course. Karina and I were more united than ever, and our routine was once again filled with moments of love and companionship. The shop prospered, and I felt grateful for each day beside the woman I loved. One day, while I was closing the shop, I heard the sound of a motorcycle approaching. I looked at the entrance and saw a familiar figure. It was Lucy, just like the first time we met. She got off the motorcycle, and I could see that something had changed in her. Her eyes, once full of desperation, now showed a calmness and humility I hadn't seen before. "Antonio," she began, her voice soft and full of emotion. "I needed to come here. I needed to see you and ask forgiveness for everything I did. I'm not the same person anymore." I remained silent for a moment, observing her. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, and something inside me knew she was speaking the truth. "Lucy, I don't know what to say. Everything that happened caused a lot of suffering, but I see that you've changed." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know I can't erase the past, but I want you to know that I deeply regret it. I'm trying to rebuild my life, to be a better person, and part of that is asking for your forgiveness." I took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of emotions. Lucy, I forgive you. We all make mistakes and you deserve a second chance. I hope you find peace and happiness. She smiled through the tears, a smile full of gratitude and relief. Thank you, Antonio. This means a lot to me. I promise I will never cause pain to anyone again. We said goodbye there at the entrance of the shop, and as she mounted her motorcycle to leave, I felt a sense of closure. Lucy rode away, and I knew that was the last time I would see her. I know I shouldn't have been with her and taken her as a lover, but I was weak and selfish. I admit that. But she played dirty, using black magic spells to bind me and almost causing my wife to lose her life because of it. Well, this is a warning for those of you who like to venture with people you barely know. One of these days, all my drama could happen to you. Thank you for listening to my story, and please comment on what you thought.